a few iterations to get to something which is really going to be actively useful in the field and is going to be cheap enough. But on the other hand, if you don't start, you'll never get there. The competition is open to everyone. Hackerspaces and makerspaces are especially encouraged to enter. This is a relatively big problem. Coming up with a good solution is going to require teamwork. The only firm requirements are that everything that's developed for the competition has to be released under open source software and open hardware and open documentation licenses so that it can be actually reproduced by the groups in question without needing some kind of centralized supply chain, and that the system needs to be legal in some kind of chosen jurisdiction. If you're in the US, there's no point in submitting a system that uses 3 gigahertz radios because that's just going to get somebody arrested that much faster. So this is the set of judging criteria. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm not going to go into the details of scoring and that kind of thing right now. There's a competition website that has all of this information available on it. 2 notes, and I'll just give the URL right now so you have some time. The cost is definitely a criteria for this competition, but it's expected that the first generation of devices are probably going to be too expensive by, at least an order of magnitude for what we'd really like to see for the field. But, that happens. The prices will come down. Second, teams are really strongly encouraged to get together with groups that might actually field these things in the real world, talk to these people, work with them, do use case studies, find out what they think would be useful. If you work with a group, both working with the group will be taken into account, and also if you get a group that says, hey, we organize protests all the time, like Copwatch in Berkeley that has a bunch of other branches, and this would be exactly the camera that we need. Great, and that'll also get taken into account for the judging. There's going to be a preliminary evaluation of progress for all the teams that are registered in about 6 months. I'm hoping to maybe talk about this at the CCC Congress in December, if we have some results then. Basically, if we have about 75% or so of the teams that have registered, we've got some real fieldable systems in. We'll do the judging round then. If the development cycle ends up taking longer, we'll talk to the teams and see what the deadlines sound like they should be. So there's the URL, sldrc.com/projects/deployable. So any questions? And the slides are at that other URL. So I'll just leave that up there for a minute for people to write it down. Is there a mic for questions? Okay. So I actually haven't got, the question was about the New York City air quality testing issue. I haven't done as much research on that one as I should have. There was a professor at Columbia who does environmental systems work in the architecture department who passed that on to me. I think it was a short-term thing, certainly because their position on the health risks there changed pretty rapidly after it was shown that, yeah, this was, obviously had real health effects. So I think it was at best a short-term thing. And again, I'm not sure if they ever managed to successfully enforce it or not. But they did actually get to the point of trying to prevent it legally. So.
Do you have any kind of an outline put together so someone could say, search the local city council meeting minutes, go through steps, bring it to the attention? Because sometimes they have open forums.
Yeah. The question was about an outline of questions, I'm assuming, to talk to city councils with and that kind of thing. I haven't prepared anything like that. I'd be happy to work with someone to do that. The slides of this talk and the script for this talk are available online as far as if you want to get more information about some of the stuff I've referenced. And then, yeah, get in touch with me. I'd definitely be interested in working with people to put that kind of document together. No, I'm probably going to put it up in the subway at some point, but. So the question was about who else might end up using the results of this competition other than the people who would like to. I guess here's the thing. Police agencies don't have to go to open hardware for their surveillance needs. They just bolt up cameras, and they can afford to put cameras everywhere. And the military and the intelligence agencies are already building, I mean, they already have Predator drones. They don't need to build open source Predator drones. Basically, this is about technology equalization and getting the technology out of just the hands of government agencies and larger corporations that can afford the existing military industrial versions, and saying, okay, well, we get to have those toys to play too. The question was about why make it fit in a legally into a jurisdiction. So basically the idea is that, okay, so if the only law that you're violating, for instance, a couple of states have recently passed or are trying to pass laws banning, taking pictures of the police. If you break a law that bans taking pictures of the police, that's fine. But if you ban a law that says, if you're like breaking frequency allocation stuff, that kind of thing, that gives them another lever to use to ban these systems with, and then they can say, oh, this is a public safety issue that these crazy people are building these systems that don't respect radio allocations or whatever, and that kind of thing. And it makes it much, much harder for a legitimate group to actually field a system like this. It's almost certain that if we get these systems being actively used on a regular basis, yeah, of course they're going to get banned. But that's a different category of law versus something around existing public safety, existing spectrum laws, that kind of thing. And it's basically saying, can a group field something like this and not get arrested on completely unrelated charges?
Technology is an extension of pre-existing social power structures.
Yes.
Seeing surveillance being used by them is not particularly surprising. You seem to wish to empower justice in the ideal sense, not just in the particular justice system sense. Where do you see socially taking the initiative to expand their own power using surveillance technology?
So the question was about who I see taking the initiative to use these kinds of tools. It's already becoming more of a done thing for, okay, so here's an example. A number of years ago, a friend of mine was involved in some student organizing work in the UK at Brighton University when the students were doing a bunch of takeovers of administration buildings as part of student general strikes. And his job was to stand in frame and be completely innocuous and do absolutely nothing that could possibly get himself arrested. Because then he could go subpoena for those videos, he could go file a Freedom of Information Act request for those videos without there being any risk of incriminating himself in the process of doing so, and make sure that the videos were released. So in some kind of very grassroots ways, people are already taking action to equalize the effects of surveillance. And you're getting similar things where, okay, look at how G20 went in Toronto. The media picture for surveillance, by the organized news networks was a tiny percentage of the video that came out of there. You had 15,000 minutes of video citizen video for every minute of network video that got shot, that got uploaded to YouTube or whatever. And, I mean, round numbers, but this kind of thing is already happening. People are just using tools that really suck. So let's give them tools that don't suck quite as much. Anyone else?
I taped some hearings from a local governmental agency on their installation of surveillance cameras. Can I link those to your website?
Feel free to send stuff to me, and we can talk offline.
Are you familiar with the BBC production called The Last Enemy?
No, I'm not.
You will want to watch it.
Okay.
You can buy it from WGBH.
Yeah, sure. I think there was one more question.
Going back to this gentleman's question, which I thought was good, if you acknowledge that some of these devices may become illegal for reasons that could actually be a technicality, for example, violating a certain frequency spectrum usage guideline. And I think perhaps that answer could be good or bad. I don't necessarily think they would become illegal, but if they were going to become illegal for a technicality like that, it doesn't directly address the moral reasons you use them or not. Why worry about that kind of legality up front in this context? If they'll be useful before they become illegal and useful after they become illegal.
The question was, why worry about systems becoming illegal on technicalities when that happens before that's actually been a problem? Basically, because if these systems get fielded for real and real organizations are using this, you don't want to get someone in any more trouble than they may get into anyway. And if that means that in addition to whatever charges somebody gets laid in, they get also charged with the FCC charges or whatever and some additional fine, that's some real organization that has to pay that fine when we find out that, oops, somebody screwed up. So it seems like it's kind of an aspect of due diligence. It's for the same reason that, okay, if you're going to make an actually autonomous UAV version of this thing, you need to be very careful that it's not going to crash into somebody and kill them, because then whoever's fielding it gets charged with obstruction of justice and manslaughter. And you'd really like to not give somebody in the field that additional lever. So I think we're pretty much at time. If anyone else has questions, we can take them offline.